10 years. That's how long I was married to Daniel. 10 years of shared birthdays, family vacations, late-night conversations, and dreams about growing old together. If someone had told me back then that my husband was hiding a life-changing secret from me, I would have laughed. Not because Daniel was perfect, but because I trusted him completely. And trust has a strange way of making you blind. You stop questioning things. You stop looking for signs. You believe every explanation because you want to believe it. That's exactly what happened to me. The truth finally started revealing itself on a rainy Tuesday evening. Daniel had just come home from work. He looked tired. At least that's what I thought. He kissed my forehead, placed his phone on the kitchen counter, and went upstairs to take a shower. A few moments later, his phone lit up. Normally, I would never look. But something caught my attention. The message preview appeared on the screen. 7 words. 7 simple words that changed my life forever. Does your wife know the truth yet? My heart stopped. I stared at the screen. Reading it again, and again, and again. I felt cold, confused, terrified. What truth? Who sent that message? Why would someone ask that? When Daniel came downstairs, I said nothing. I smiled, pretended everything was normal. But inside, my mind was racing. That night I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those words. Does your wife know the truth yet? The next morning, I tried convincing myself there had to be an innocent explanation. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it was about work. Maybe I was overthinking. But deep down, something felt wrong. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing things I had ignored for years. Daniel's phone was always face down. He suddenly became protective of it. He stepped outside to take calls. Sometimes he left the room whenever messages arrived. Then there were the business trips. So many business trips. At first, they seemed normal. Daniel worked in sales. Travel was part of his job. But now I realized something strange. The trips were becoming more frequent, longer, and less predictable. Whenever I asked questions, his answers felt rehearsed, almost automatic. For the first time in our marriage, I started wondering if I actually knew my husband. One Saturday afternoon, while organizing documents in our home office, I discovered something unusual. It was a bank statement. At first glance, it seemed ordinary. Then I noticed an account number I had never seen before. My stomach tightened. Daniel and I shared nearly everything financially. Yet somehow this account had never been mentioned. I looked closer. What I found made my hands shake. Every month, thousands of dollars were being transferred to the same person. Month after month, year after year, the payments stretched back nearly a decade. I couldn't understand it. Who was receiving the money? Why was Daniel hiding it? That night, I sat in my car outside a grocery store for almost an hour. Just thinking, trying to make sense of everything. Part of me wanted to confront him immediately. Demand answers. Demand the truth. But another part of me knew something important. If I confronted him too soon, he would simply lie. So I stayed quiet, and I started investigating. The next month became one of the hardest periods of my life. Every day felt like living two different realities. One reality was the happy marriage everyone saw. The other was the secret investigation nobody knew about. I collected information carefully. Bank records, receipts, travel records, phone logs. Every clue revealed another piece of the puzzle. And every piece made the situation worse. Then one evening, everything changed. I followed a trail connected to one of Daniel's trips. What I discovered left me speechless. Daniel wasn't spending all those weekends at business conferences. He wasn't meeting clients. He wasn't working overtime. He was visiting another home. Another life. Another family. I sat frozen staring at the information. Unable to breathe. Unable to think. For 10 years. 10 entire years. While I believed we were building a future together, Daniel had been living two separate lives. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted answers. But most of all, I wanted to wake up. Because surely this couldn't be real. Unfortunately, it was. The following days were a blur. I barely ate. Barely slept. Every memory suddenly felt different. Our wedding photos. Our vacations. Our anniversaries. Every happy moment now carried a shadow. I kept asking myself one question. How could someone do this for 10 years? How could someone look into another person's eyes every day and lie so easily? The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was personal. It was calculated. It was years of deception hidden behind a smile. But then something happened that changed my perspective. I stopped focusing on Daniel. And started focusing on myself. For weeks, I had been asking why he did it. Why he lied. Why he betrayed me. Then I realized those questions didn't matter. The truth mattered. And the truth was already sitting right in front of me. I had proof. Evidence. Facts. I didn't need explanations anymore. I needed closure. So I created a plan. I spent another month gathering everything. Every document. Every payment. Every hidden account. Every message. By the time I finished, there was no room for denial. No room for excuses. No room for manipulation. Then came the night that changed everything. I invited Daniel to his favorite restaurant. He smiled when he arrived. Completely relaxed. Completely unaware. We ordered dinner. Talked normally. Laughed occasionally. To him, it was just another date night. To me, it was the end of a chapter. After dessert arrived, I reached into my bag. And placed a thick folder on the table. Daniel looked confused. What's this? I simply said 3 words. Open it. He smiled nervously. Then opened the folder. The first page. His smile disappeared. The second page. His face turned pale. The third page. Silence. Absolute silence. For nearly a minute, he said nothing. He knew. The moment he saw those documents, he knew. The secret was over. The lies were finished. The truth had finally arrived. Eventually, he started talking. Excuses. Explanations. Regret. Promises. But honestly, I barely heard any of it. Because something inside me had already changed. For months I thought discovering the truth would destroy me. Instead, it freed me. The fear disappeared. The confusion disappeared. The uncertainty disappeared. For the first time in a long time, I felt clear. The following months weren't easy. Friends found out. Family found out. The image Daniel had spent years protecting slowly collapsed. Not because I tried to embarrass him. Not because I wanted revenge. But because truth has a way of reaching the surface. No matter how deeply it's buried. Today my life looks completely different. I'm stronger, happier, and surprisingly grateful. Not grateful for the betrayal, but grateful for what it taught me. Because sometimes the most painful truths lead to the most important changes. And if there's one lesson I learned from all of this, it's this. Never ignore your instincts. Never underestimate your worth. And never stay silent when the truth deserves to be heard. Because lies can survive for years. But eventually, the truth always finds its way home.